What's up, guys? Welcome to the Basecamp podcast, brought to you by Elevate Elite. And my name is Donovan. I'm here with Mr. Kyree Oliver. How you doing, Mr. Kyree?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Happy New Year. It's going to be an amazing year. I can already feel it in my loins.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited for everything that is to come in this year, especially this podcast. And we were kind of just chatting a little bit between Kyrie and I and talking about what the premise of the podcast is. This is the first episode, actually. So happy to have you here. But basically, I want to bring people up off the mountain that I've kind of witnessed from afar on my own journeys. And Elevate Elite is really about that climbing the mountain and then kind of meeting the people along the way and kind of creating that community of like, what does success look like? What does it look like to actually enjoy your life as a person, as an entrepreneur, business owner, whatever? And I would really like to have these conversations with people like yourself and then bring those stories back to Basecamp in video format, like we talked about, and
Yeah.
just kind of share these stories with people. So
I
today we
dig it,
will be
man.
talking about the man inside or the woman inside of who you are and just being able to explore that and check some of these identity markers, which is like job and relationship and being a parent or whatever, and how sometimes that identity marker unfortunately gets kind of shocked out of you and you change your environment or something happens to a child or you get a health concern or something of that nature, and how do you deal with those things? I know that's
Yeah.
something you talk about pretty often.
Yeah. Quite a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I'd like to get into is just number one about like who you are. I know you were a D1 athlete in football, from what I understand,
Hmm.
and now you're a husband and father and entrepreneur and speaker and motivator and just a really cool human from what it looks like.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, I played football a long time ago. I stopped playing 10 years ago. Um, yeah, and I just again I'd always had this itch that like, okay, I'll do it after football. And it was like some kind of helping people, it was some kind of building a business. I just didn't know what that was. Um, and when I stopped playing football, I kind of had to go through this. If I'm not this, then now who am I?
Hmm.
And I didn't have an answer, and that scared the hell out of me. I was 20, almost 21, um, and it scared me not having that answer. Again, it was like that first identity shock. I can no
Yeah.
longer be who I have been up to this point, and who I've been rewarded for being, and like that was one of the hardest parts. I can't do the way I solved problems my entire life is not the way I'm allowed to solve problems now.
Yeah.
Like push harder, work harder, do more doesn't work in all areas, especially when you have like this identity or emotional break inside your body that you can't quantify and you can't put it on a spreadsheet and you can't, again, you can't go run faster, jump higher to do something about it. And so I think it was like a soft skill development process that I had to start learning. um and I started interviewing people to do this. I thought I was going to find out about other people. I realized I almost only found out about myself. I heard a lot of stories from other people about their life experiences, but almost all of it in some way has impacted me and related back to me. So I ended up doing like it became an obsession for like 2 years. I wish I knew the number. It was over 1,000 interviews. It's probably like over 1,000, under 1,100 is what I would guess. Um, I did 65 end of life interviews. I interviewed terminally ill patients during that. I interviewed death row inmates, monks, lawyers, doctors, homeless people. Denny's in San Francisco used to have $4 all you can eat pancakes when I was driving for Lyft and Uber, which is where I interviewed a lot of people that I would just give them a ride and ask them if I could ask questions. I was a 19-year-old kid. But I would find a homeless person when I had to park my car. You weren't allowed to drive for like 6 hours. If you drove 14 hours, you have to stop for 6 hours. And I would find homeless people, take them to Denny's because they had $4 all you can eat pancakes and I was broke. And I would just say, "Can I buy you breakfast and ask you some questions?" And not a single one said no. Of duh. Um, so I think I just got a whole lot of life experience downloaded to me that I didn't even know what to do with really early.
Mm.
I've spent the last 12 years now disseminating a lot of that information, figuring it out for myself.
That is so cool, man. What a story.
Yeah.
Wow. And that what does that curiosity stem from? Like, is it not having that experience or knowledge of people growing up, or like what really got you interested in having those conversations?
I want to say it was fear of not figuring it out fast enough. I felt like I was working against this clock, and maybe I guess it wasn't because that was before I started doing the interviews. But yeah, I felt like I was working against this clock of like I need to figure it out as fast as possible. Um, And I think I just went through in my head, like, I can't live faster. I can't literally speed up time. How do I get the most out of the least? Right? How do I squeeze as much of whatever I'm looking for, knowledge, wisdom, mistakes other people have made? How do I pull as much of that out of the smallest amount of time? And to
Yeah.
me, that was collapsing time by being intentional about learning as much as I could about as many people as I could.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that first identity shock that you had mentioned when it came to football, was that like due to an injury?
Yeah. Yeah. I was moving back home from my university where I had scholarship. Uh, had to play junior college for a year back then. When you transferred, you have to play at a junior college for a year before you can transfer back to another Division I university. And then while I was playing junior college, I got hurt. So it was like, all right, I need to, this is before the season started. So I have to recover for a year, then play it another year at a junior college, and then try to go get scouted again. Now as a 20-year-old instead of an 18-year-old. Yeah, that's going to be really difficult. And more concussions and more trauma, like head trauma, more like wear and tear in my body. So yeah, I had to like, it was probably a 6 month decision as I was recovering to finally just go, nah, all right, time to figure out, like, time to do the scary thing and figure out what's next.
Yeah. Yeah, I never got to that level of football to be able to even try to consider getting scouted. Like that was I was okay, but like in the small town that I grew up in, like there was just no chance, you know what I mean? And now we've got like professional athletes that have won Super Bowls out of our small town. So that's pretty cool. Out
Oh,
of
that's wild.
yeah, CSU Pueblo, man. We've had a I think an Eagle last year or the year before when they
Mhm.
won the Super Bowl, he was on that team. And I think he's a lineman or defensive lineman. I can't remember which, but now we got some bragging rights down in Pueblo.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. But then you watch these movies like Friday Night Lights, and Booby, he ended up getting injured to the point where like he couldn't even make it to college at all.
Mhm.
And the identity shocker, I remember watching that and just like feeling the emotion of like this is all you know how to do. This is all that you've ever done. I mean, to get to that collegiate level, let alone professional level, like you have to dedicate your life to it to some degree. You know, if you're like Tiger Woods or something, like you're playing as a child
Yeah,
and
it's a
you're
full
putting
time
those
job.
hours. Yeah. And so like going from that identity of like just crushing your body over and over and getting your body used to like breaking down and rebuilding back up over year, all year long, to then shifting that mindset. What was the thing that helped you get through that?
Again, the interviews are big. I realized that the people I was interviewing who were overall the most fulfilled, I was trying to find similarities between what makes somebody this, what makes somebody this versus this, like not putting it on a chart, but kind of in my head putting it on a chart. These combination of things make you overall happy, successful, confident, whatever. These things overall make you sad, have a distorted view of the world or yourself, negative outlook, whatever. And so I think disseminating a lot of those patterns was what started teaching me a lot of these people are soft skills people. A lot of these people are, and this is something we see in business a lot, the pragmatic, logical, objective people that are highly fucking emotional and are rationalizing negative emotionality as just I'm just being logical here. I'm just being pragmatic here. Um, the objective truth is insert my very, very emotional opinion. Um, and so I just realized like, oh, these people have a little bit more of this ability to navigate and like mold and shape their thoughts and feelings based on new information, based on um, what exactly they're trying to optimize for in their lives. But they've first asked themselves that question: what do I want to optimize for? These people, I think, have gone. Um, I'm only allowed to focus on one thing, and that one thing has to take over everything else that I ever do.
Hmm.
And the wild thing is some of these people become highly highly successful and probably
Yeah.
more successful than most of these people. And so because of those few, the Elon Musk, the Bezos, the Zuckerbergs, the these, it convinces everybody else over here that maybe one day me having this fucked up way of thinking is going to end up getting me there. And that's
Right.
it. Like it's an unfortunate psyop that most people are falling for.
Well, it does seem it seems like a very similar mindset to addiction if you look at it through the lens of an addict, where they 100% have to go in on that addiction. There's nothing other than that addiction
Mhm.
and then everything else, right?
Yeah.
And so it becomes like a workaholic addiction or a business addiction or success addiction or whatever you want to call it. People are even referring to it as like wealth porn at this point, where it's
I get it.
something where you're just mentally masturbating about this thing that could be if it becomes this thing where you just go in all in, but then you kind of fall out of balance. I think about it in the way of like a clown at a circus spinning plates.
Mm.
Like if you don't practice the routine, you're going to get in front of those people that you're going to perform for, and your plates are going to break. And that's not going to be very entertaining at all. And the audience is really your family, your friends, the peers that you have. This audience that you have that you're performing for, they're going to come and watch you perform. And if you're only spinning one plate, it's pretty impressive, right? Not a
Yeah.
lot of people can do that, but you're also seeing these other plates break, and you're like, this doesn't add up. My brain
Yeah.
isn't making sense of this performance. And so you kind of have to go back to the drawing board in that regard. And a lot of these guys, they get one plate going really well. And I say these guys, the people that you're speaking of,
Sure. Sure.
the hyper successful, the people that are just like all in 100% on business. You start seeing these problems underlying in relationship issues, family issues, relationships with friends,
Yeah.
a lot of those things, health issues. I mean, you can just look at them and see that they have some health issues, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And how do you think that people can address that kind of, all in 100% addiction mindset and try to find a little bit more balance? Because a lot of these gurus do teach that there is no such thing as balance. And I,
Yeah.
I just feel like I disagree with that.
Again, I've just met too many of them that are richer than the gurus, and far more successful than the gurus that are quiet because they're not on social media. I think this is actually part of the problem. And I've tried to get a few of my friends to start doing like some sort of podcasting or interviews or just like the All In podcast where it's just like three super rich dudes being able to talk about whatever the fuck they want to talk about. Now they talk about like politics and government stuff and like social cultural things too. Um but they like it's the quiet guys that you'll never hear about that actually have the life balance that you're probably looking for at a insanely high level. I have a
Mm,
friend here in Arizona. I would venture. I looked like 3 years ago. They were worth about $32 billion. His family company that he runs. Um, this man texts me on my birthday every single year. He sends things to my kids. He calls me on like if I post something that has been difficult in my life, he's probably the first phone call I've had. My friend who passed away last year, he was one of the first people that calls me right afterwards. He knows my wife, he knows my children. Like this man is busier than anybody I know and can have any excuse to not value relationships. And I've never provided any value to him other than being a friend. And this dude, at least once a month, we're talking on the phone. At least twice a month, I'm getting a text from him about something. Like every holiday, every birthday. And it just made me realize, like, oh, there's some bell curve problem here where somewhere in here you were taught if I isolate myself, even if it's just emotionally, because I think this is a hard thing a lot of people come to. They got success after they were married or had kids, or after they already knew that they were supposed to get married and have kids. And
mhm.
so I'm not allowed to isolate myself physically. Now, some people do. Some people leave their families. Some people, you know, break up um, and stop prioritizing that thing. Some of them only withdraw emotionally. So physically, I'm still here. So you can't complain. But emotionally, I'm gone. My brain is somewhere else. My thoughts and feelings are somewhere else. But at least I'm here. You can't call me a piece of shit. And so I think there's this piece of this bell curve that I joke about it. They want to be Batman. And I want to be like the cool, dark, brooding, dark knight, rich guy that nobody really understands. And that sounds really awesome. Again, you don't want the tortured soul aspect that comes along with it. It's like maybe I can be Batman, but I can also be Superman, but I can also be like, can I be all the positive traits without any of the negative traits? But what they don't realize is that those negative things actually fuel them. They still their success is oftentimes fueled by toxic fuel, which is like hate, greed, resentment, um, underdog mentality. I'm going to prove somebody wrong. Like there are guys worth hundreds of millions of dollars still trying to prove somebody wrong from fucking high school. I think it's insane. And I talk to them and they call me and like I work with those guys. And so I understand why. there's just never been a question of, okay, now that I'm done running from this thing, right? Running from the ridicule, running from what somebody says I can't be, I haven't found anything to run toward. I haven't found what that North Star is. That North Star has always been proving people wrong or overcoming my childhood difficulties. I grew up broke. And so overcoming that, like I never want to eat leftovers again was one of my big things. And I don't fucking eat leftovers now. But it's not something I'm running toward.
Right.
You have to find what that North Star is for you, right? That identity that nothing, no one thing in your life can possibly break. If I break my leg, if I lose my business, if I do, like, any one thing in your life can't break your actual foundational identity. It can break the identity that you surrounded around that one thing and you tried to wrap your entire self around that one thing. That's actually going to crush you. When you
Mm.
ask about foundationally at my core, with nobody else around, nobody's judgments or accolades or congratulations, who actually is this person? I think
Yeah.
those are the people who exist on the very, very far end of, let's say, the, what would that be? Like the holistic life success bell curve.
Yeah, I would even say simpler, like character. Like that is the character that you have. You know, if your character unfortunately is a supercar and then you lose that car, your identity may take a shock. You
Yeah.
know, that character that you created, that Bruce Wayne, that person that lives in the Batcave, has no friends, wonders why he has no friends. It makes no
Yeah.
sense. It really is the definition of insanity at the end of the day. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is not going to get you the benefit of what you're looking for. You know,
Yeah.
so I would definitely agree with you on all fronts of that. I mean, I've actually had friends as well. I haven't worked with too many people like you have, that have had that much success. But even on a lower level, you know, you look at some of these people that just have normal 9 to 5 jobs and they claim to work so hard and be so busy and have no time for anything, including the gym, their health, their family, their children at night. When they get home, they have no time. And it's really because a lot of people are just working in figure eights. They're just going in circles and they don't really know where they're
Yeah.
going. You know, and it's fair to not know where you're going, but you kind of have to set your pride aside sometimes and actually like admit that and be like, yeah, I don't know where I'm going. I do need help. I don't know who to reach out to. Where do I start? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and
I think those are the hard ones though, right? If I'm
yeah,
in an embarrassing place, why would I tell somebody else about it?
yeah. Well,
Even
I
if I
think
think they
it's
can help me, why am I going to expose myself to that other person? I think that's how people think about it.
for sure. And I think that's exactly like where this podcast comes from is, you know, everybody starts kind of, and I used to think this, everybody starts at base camp. And then I realized that apparently I haven't climbed enough mountains because I didn't realize that you get to base camp and then you set up and then you
Yeah.
climb. But yeah, I learned something new this last year. But yeah, basically everybody starts at the ground level and then they have to ascend the mountain of whatever that is mentally to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes a lot of people, it's just not business. It's just not money. It's the, like you said, the thing that they were running from originally. And then they now have that stuff and they have the ability to procure whatever it is that they want: the cars, the houses, the vacations, the
They have the
jewelry.
externalized version of it.
Yep. And
But
now
then
it's like,
that's where the break comes from is, why can't I feel this?
yeah, it's like, man, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I got to the mountaintop and I reached all of the achievements that you're supposed to achieve and got the attaboys and the symbolic wealth, the cultural wealth, everything that my
Yep.
parents told me that I couldn't get, I got, right? But now, like I told you earlier before we started recording, everybody has this sign at the top that it reads the same for everybody, and it's on a big piece of wood and it has a stake in the ground at the top, and you see the beautiful mountain views, and it says the same for everybody. It says, now
Mm-hmm.
what? You know, you got there. Now what? Like
Yeah.
you
What's
still
next?
have plenty of life to live. Like now what is going to bring you that dopamine hit that you were looking for this entire time that doesn't exist anymore?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you kind of have to climb back down and realize that it was about community to begin with, from my perspective. But I don't know if I've gotten there yet. You know, just from the eyes I've seen through other people, with, like you mentioned, taking care of people that are wealthy on their deathbed.
Sure.
I too was taking care of wealthy people that were older on their deathbed, 90 years old. You know, I was a caretaker at one point, taking care of old people, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what I saw was just like, man, I wish I had my children around here in this retirement home because I just really don't have any friends. I don't like these people. I don't want to go out of my room even on like a holiday. Like I'm just kind of over this, you know?
Yeah.
And they have it all. They have everything they could ever buy, you
What's
know?
crazy is was hearing a lot of what they were donating their money to. A lot of those old people that I was interviewing, like it wasn't going to their kids. fuck my kids was a lot of them, like
Yeah.
because they left me here and they don't take
Right.
care of me and blah blah, and for a bunch of different reasons. um but it was like going to the ASPCA, it was going to their church, it was going to a local hospital, it was going to like a
Yeah.
children's shelter. um the story I use most often about like these end of life interviews, like it was the person who had made the most money that I'd met at that point. He had made probably, he had said around $500 million in his life, so around 500 million. Very very crazy. Like you would never think of this as a career or as a business to run. But he ran a very complicated business that's almost impossible to get into and almost nobody knows about, but makes a shit ton of money. And his name was Frank. He was 82 or 83 years old when I interviewed him. I was 20. And we spent like 7 hours together. He was just so intriguing to me. His life story was insane, all the things he had gone through. And I remember one of the questions I asked, that is why I use him as an example, is if you could go back and change one thing in your life, what would you change? And he goes, can I have three? And I was like, sure, I guess. Like, dying man's wish. This guy, I think it was pancreatic cancer. And I was like, yeah, you can have three. And he goes, I think I would have gone to one of each of my son's baseball games. And I think, and I hope that that would have made a difference or maybe started making a difference.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean one? He was like, I didn't go to a single one. And two of his sons played college baseball. One of them stopped in high school. He's like, I went to one of their college graduations and I went to one of their weddings. That's it. And his
Wow.
sons were in their 60s at this point. And his sons were maybe late 50s. And he hadn't seen any of them in 12 years. He hadn't seen, he had seen like, let's say two out of his eight grandchildren, and he had seen none of his great grandchildren. And had just like, he had made all the money. He had done all the things. He had had four wives that are all still alive and are also making money off of him. And I saw a man who was dying empty. I was one of four people at his funeral. There were two nurses from the nursing home, one of his friends from college, and me, that I just interviewed him maybe like 4 days before he passed. And I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. At 20 years old, I was like, uh-oh, that's what that looks like. And of course, like that's an
Yeah.
extreme version. Didn't go to a
Right.
single practice, of course. But I think it showed this pattern of like, you're going to continue doing what you're doing given no abrupt stop. And this is what you're talking about, like with identity shock. A lot of times it's so easy to just deteriorate slowly, the frog in the boiling pot. It's so easy to do this when there's no abrupt stop, when there's nothing that stops you in your tracks and go, you're not allowed to do this anymore. That's why, when do we see most men make a shift? It's a breakup, it's a business breakup, it's bankruptcy, it's a diagnosis that of them or somebody very close to them. It's losing a child, it's losing a spouse, whatever that is. It has to be this abrupt stop all the time in order to take back over control of yourself. I mostly work with young guys, usually typically under 30. My oldest client's 58. But most of the guys are like, let's say 35, 25 to 35 for the most part. And I have my guys practice getting up from dinner. So if they're out with a bunch of friends and the conversation turns into degeneracy or something that they don't want to be a part of, um, no matter what point it's at, this can be appetizers or this can be cocktails afterwards. You explain that this isn't something you're interested in continuing to talk about once. And then if the conversation continues or there's ridicule, or there's anything else, you go, hey guys, I had a great time with you. I'm going to head off. I have other things that I'd rather be doing right now. I appreciate you, blah, 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 blah. Get up and leave. It's just the practicing that autonomy of like, oh, I'm allowed to leave any situation that doesn't fit, that doesn't work.
Hmm.
At any point in time, I'm able to rewrite the things that are going on in here and in here. And I need to have that autonomy. Of course, you're going to create some friction. There's going to be follow-up conversations that need to happen. But I've seen them watch the conversations in their friends group completely shift because somebody was willing to do that. And
Yeah.
I think people don't realize you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for everybody you impact.
Hmm.
Any shift that you're making in this direction, it's for your kids, it's for your wife, it's for your girlfriend, it's for your parents, it's for anybody around you that is impacted by your presence in your personal life and your business, because we try to separate those and they're really not the same operators doing both. So whether you have employees, family, friends, whatever, you being able to get comfortable with this will impact every single person around you.
I don't disagree with that at all. It definitely is about who you surround yourself with. And if those people aren't really willing to have those conversations, then they just unfortunately may not be a friend in the future. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's hard to maintain those friendships with those people when you're on a path of, I would say, self-development to some degree. And those people are kind of unfortunately still stuck in that same mentality.
What's funny is
And
I've rarely ever actually seen that happen.
rarely see those people stick in the same mentality that they kept.
I've rarely seen them not capable of staying your friend. I don't think they
Mm,
need the same mentality. I think they need to know how to operate around you. Like
interesting.
you're the one who gauges the temperature or who sets the temperature. And I have this thing around entrepreneurs, successful people, only wanted to hang out with entrepreneurs and successful people. Some of my
Right,
best friends, we've never made money together. We watch stupid podcasts together and go drive our trucks in the desert and go shoot guns like assholes out in the middle of nowhere here in Arizona. We're allowed to do
right.
it. Um, and we smoke cigars and we have fun. And those are my fun friends. I have my entrepreneur friends. I have my couple friends that my wife and I hang out with. Like I'm allowed to have different friends in different buckets, but I'm the same. And everybody knows, like, I know there are certain friends that I have. The old guys I play poker with every week. The conversations they have when Kyree's not sitting there and the conversations they have when Kyrie's sitting there are a little bit different. Not
Right.
completely different, but they're a little bit different. There's certain jokes they won't say around me because they know
Hmm.
I'm not going to stand for it. What? Interesting. What? They're also in their like mid 60s, some of them mid 50s, mid 60s mostly. Um, they act a certain way when I'm around. They're the 1 week that I missed right before Thanksgiving. Somebody like tried to chuck a tequila bottle at one of the other guys and like ended up slapping his chips across the table. And the guy who runs the game, he was like, "Yo, you not being here is this place is fucking chaos. Like nobody has respect for each other because anytime something small has happened at that game, I go, yo, what the fuck was that?" And I'm again a bunch of old white guys who are insanely rich, most of them, and young black guy who compared to them is broke as shit goes, what? He's not like you could see their brains processing like, is he allowed
Right.
to yell at me right now? This
Right.
31-year-old who makes
Yeah.
nothing compared to my $80 million, my $60 million, my whatever.
Yeah.
Is he allowed to say that? And again, it, because I'm not angry, because I never yell at them, I never cuss at them. It's just setting a tone, and I think when you set a tone and it's genuinely who you are, everybody's actually able to manage like a relationship with you. What we do instead is we don't set a tone and we just cut anybody off who isn't exactly on the path that I'm on, and I think that that's a recipe for loneliness and lone wolf energy.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And I didn't necessarily mean they need to be cut off. I just think that when it comes to the human nature, some people, unfortunately, they fall into a certain tribe. And if you happen to go against that tribe, or if you cause a rift inside of that tribe and you're not the leader that everybody thinks you are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for example, real quick,
Yeah.
you have this aura of leader. You have like the stature, you have the demeanor, right? You've developed this over time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially if they're looking for kind of more of that leadership, confidence, charisma that you carry, and they don't necessarily have that naturally, they may not do or say anything to that guy that throws the tequila bottle and
How do
smashes
you think it was
chips,
built
right?
though? How was it built?
Right, right. You have to do it, and that's something that's hard for people. So when they're looking at their tribe, they don't want to necessarily cause a rift, right? They're like, oh, that's Jake or that's Paul or whatever. Like that's just how
Sure.
they are, right? And then they kind of just write it off that way. And I think that's where unfortunately a lot of people fall prey is like they get stuck in that tribe
Mm-hmm.
and they think that they have to assimilate in order to be accepted and they don't want to not be accepted, and that's why
Very
it's
much so.
hard to go against the grain with those kind of people is like, well, then I'm not going to be in the country club or my kid's not going to go to the school or get the
Yeah.
recommendation or what have you, right?
Yeah, and
And
this is
so like
church, this is politics, this is everything, right?
everything.
The the edges are the most comfortable actually. And coming out here and saying who am I actually and what do I want and it's different for every single category is a really difficult place to be. Like
Yeah, you got to
discernment
stand
is
on
necessary.
business.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
You got to
you
be
got to
willing
stand
to
on
do
it.
that. What I'm saying is that that's built in those small little conversations you're having and it's usually with the closest person next to you that you know is not going to leave if you cause a little bit of friction or actually say
Right.
what's on your mind. And also again like delivery matters, and this is a really hard one. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. We were smoking cigars. was that last Monday, watching the 49er game in his backyard. And he was talking about like his feedback to his sons after their soccer game. And he was like, dude, I had said something to him about like he had just done this, like, I just want them to be great. I want, like, they're gonna be up against so much having me as their dad, and everybody knows who I am. And like their mom drives the G-Wagon, I drive my big ass truck, like everybody knows who we are around here. My sons are gonna have a lot to live up to. I want them to live up to that. And so he's like, that's why I'm hard on them. That's why I yell at them. That's why I like ridicule them after like they don't make a goal or whatever. And I go, what do you think they're gonna remember? Like, so you're telling me you're doing two things. You're ridiculing, and these kids are under 10 years old. You're ridiculing, you're shaming, you're doing this, but it's because you want them to do well and that you want them to be better people. Which message do you think is going to stick? And he was, he didn't answer me when I first asked the question, but then this past week, he was like, dude, that immediately, as soon as I want to yell at my kid, that immediate, like that crept into my head. What's my kid going to
Mm-hmm.
remember? People don't think delivery is important. Delivery is fucking important if I'm trying to communicate effectively. If I'm just trying to get something off my chest, I just talked about this in a client call this week, so it's top of mind. If you just want to get something off your chest, delivery doesn't matter. Say whatever you want to say, be yourself. If the point here is for us to come to a conclusion or have a better understanding of each other, or if I want to effectively communicate what I'm trying to convey to you, my delivery matters almost more than what I'm saying.
Mm,
And this is in relationships, how we talk to our wives, how we talk to our kids, employees, colleagues, friends, whatever. So I think you can have just about any conversation with anybody about any touchy subject as long as you've mastered your delivery.
yeah.
I'm not trying to be offensive, and you can tell. I'm not trying to be mean, and you can tell. I'm not trying to rip apart this friendship or this religious group or this political thing, and you can tell. I think
Mm-hmm.
people can tell by your delivery. Trying to be sincere, the attempt at sincerity, even if you come off a little bit gruff, because you will at the beginning, the attempt at sincerity will be recognized by everybody around you. And I think you're going to see far different results than you think you will. Not you
Yeah.
specifically, but anybody who's like
Right, right.
afraid of causing friction, just deliver it properly. Hey, this is hard for me to say. And then say it. Tell them
Mm-hmm.
that you're afraid and I don't want to lose you as a friend and I don't want to ruin this thing that we have going on, but I feel like I need to say this. They'll respect it. Almost everybody respects it.
Yep. Even if you have an emotional outburst, if you're not very good at communicating and you are an emotional person and that is your default and you lead with anger or
Yeah.
sadness or emotion, you can always go back and course correct. And I think that's where pride unfortunately gets in the way with character is like it's hard to go back and apologize and be like, dude, I really just like I didn't say that correctly. I
Yeah.
really had an emotional outburst, but I really just don't jive with this conversation, man. Like it causes me a certain trigger inside and I apologize for being that way. But like we need to figure out a better way to communicate amongst each other. I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like those things like those hit almost harder for me when somebody like has an emotional outburst and then comes to me as a person and is like, dude, I sincerely apologize about that. Like, I don't know what was happening at the moment. Like, it just happened. I don't know.
My respect goes through the roof.
Yep. Yeah, same here, man. And it takes a lot to be able to apologize like that. And I try to convey that into my children as well, where it's like, I'm sorry doesn't get you very far. You
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I think may have been Tony Robbins, but somebody talked about taking a plate and breaking it and then apologize to it and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What got done? Not much. The plate's still broken. You still broke the plate. You still
Yeah.
performed the action of doing so. Now you have to take some steps to go and like pick up the pieces and assemble it back together and use glue and like
Yeah. The only difference is you
hopefully
might feel a little better about it.
right. And so like at least you're putting in effort that is like visible, right? Because at the end of the day, I think they say like 7% of how we communicate is words.
Mm-hmm.
93% is everything else.
Yeah.
And so like the body language you have, the tonality that you have, the way that you're
Tone,
like
cadence, voice
expressing it,
choice,
everything.
all of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So when it comes to character, I think people need to be a little emotional at first and then recognize their emotions, right? Like be able to like get a harness on that and be like, am I an angry person? I don't think I am, man. Like I know I get angry sometimes and I know people say I'm angry, but like I don't want to be angry, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to express myself in a way that doesn't make people feel that I'm angry. But like how? Right? Like where do I start with that?
That's where identity goes. What story are you telling yourself as to why anger makes you powerful?
Yeah. Yeah. Why is that a valuable trait to have for you?
We
Like
wouldn't
what?
have it if it wasn't valuable.
Hmm.
So what am I getting from it, and how do I change my operating system? How do I change my fuel source? Right now, I'm getting fueled by the perceived power that actually is the abdication of my power. That is me getting angry. Has you getting angry really solved something other than people being compliant for a very short period of time? No,
Yeah.
it doesn't solve any
Or
long
just
term problems.
fearful,
Yeah,
or
or
just
just fearful.
fearful of you. Like they
But
just
that's
don't want to
like
be around you
fear.
anymore.
Fear is short term compliance.
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen right now because I'm scared. I'm gonna listen right
Yeah,
now
that's
because you're
true.
angry and I don't want to piss off dad. Right?
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Yeah, man. I see a lot of people who happen to use that and get to the top of the mountain of success, and then they realize that it wasn't the motivator that they thought it was going to be for the people that they're around and themselves. And
Yeah.
oftentimes these people also are angry at themselves. They're angry at their own inability to form relationships and be there and show up and be present.
So then what do we
Um,
do when we can't do something or we're not good at it? We have to devalue it in our heads.
mm,
This is where Red Pill Podcast come from. This is where the asshole rich guy comes from. If I'm not good at relationships, I have to tell you that relationships don't matter. You just need to be productive. You just need to do everything you need to do. Check off that checklist. And part of that's having dinner with your family, blah, 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 blah. It's, women suck and they're all out to get you and blah, blah, blah. Every uber successful man I know is married. And if you're
mhm,
in corporate world, oh my God, there are so many levels you can't get to if you're not married and don't have kids.
100%. Yep.
You've never had to put something
Yeah.
outside of yourself. You've never had to be responsible for something absolutely that has nothing to do with you. Oh, I don't trust you nearly as much as this guy. And he may not be as good for the job, but I trust him
Yeah.
way more.
Yeah, actually, I was having this conversation with a friend recently, and she mentioned that you don't really need to have a marriage or children in order to be of life value to somebody in that realm. And it's
Okay.
like, I don't disagree because perspective has its own weight in gold for many different applications, but
Mhm.
also like, how do you even have that perspective if you've never done it yourself,
Yeah. It's the heightened
right?
sustainability is the argument. Yes, you can be of life value. Can you be as high or for as long? No.
No. And dude, honestly, like even with Cecily and I, today is our anniversary, 8-year anniversary today.
Congrats.
Yeah, we're excited, man. Like it took a lot to get to this point, man. The first few years, like it's a grind, man.
Mhm.
People don't realize that marriage is a much different road to travel than just being in a relationship with somebody as a boyfriend and girlfriend, let alone just dating.
Sure.
Like getting into a marriage with somebody and getting to know them on such an intimate level, and then having children with that person and seeing how they become as a parent and figuring everything out together at such a young age. A lot of people haven't traveled that road. So when it comes to these red pill podcasts, man, it's like, how do you guys even have like the ability to give relationship advice, let alone like tell people not to get married? Like that, how is there no value if you've never experienced the value that is to be had?
So it's what often happens is they'll take numbers and attach them to humans. And if you're not good at doing that, then you're going to bastardize it. And so it's 70% of women file for divorce, right?
Hmm.
There's never a follow-up as to why that's the case.
Right.
Why would a man sign away the comfort, even if it's uncomfortable? Like, why would I not just go do something else or put it in the back of my mind or focus on my business? I couldn't imagine a man going and filing for a divorce unless she did something absolutely atrocious.
Right.
We also wake up every day as kind of it's a new day. And for women, typically, it's not. I'm carrying
Hmm.
yesterday, I'm carrying last week, and I'm also carrying 5 years ago. And if those haven't been managed, then they have been building up into something else. But again, like that seems obvious to me because I try to think and I've been in a relationship with a good woman who also does the minor versions of these things. And I go, oh, you guys have just never seen this before. This is why I say it.
Right.
Anybody who says these things, oh, you've never experienced a good woman because you've probably never been a good man to a good woman. Well, yeah, of course, I would have the same exact thought process as you would. And I would go right back to studies show, blah, 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 as opposed to lived experience or talking to people that have the type of experience that you say is impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? I've never seen
There's
those people interviewed on this podcast.
there's just too many people for you to come to the conclusion that everybody fits in this bucket. And that's the main thing is like when you look at the statistics of stuff, it's a bucket at the end of the day. Like, are you
Yeah.
a part of the bucket or not? Are you in it or out of it?
But also,
And
that's the
you can't
average
do that.
person. Like
Yeah.
that's always my rebuttal. When I get those on my Facebook comments, well, the average blah blah blah. I'm like, you think I'm talking to the average person? You think that's my ideal client? You think that's
Right.
my friends that are on here?
Yeah.
What
Or
the
your
fuck are we talking about?
aspirations, the people that you look up to, right? Like, do you think those are the people that I look up to? No, like I don't want to look up to the average person. Like I'm
Statistics are
trying to
for the
find
average
the
person.
ordinary.
It's
Like
like one of
what
the what was it for statistical polling, like for politics, I think it was like the number one criteria is people willing to fill out a fucking poll. When have I filled out a poll ever in my goddamn life? Never.
ever. Yeah.
That's the one
Yeah.
thing you have to manage is these people are willing to sit down and answer a politics poll or a religious poll or a social poll. Oh my lord. We're already like anybody who has anything fucking going on is out of this category.
Exactly. And even for the people that aren't necessarily in the category but are maybe even below the category, like when you are and I was talking about this yesterday on the Elevate Elite group just kind of by myself. I was like, it almost is better to be broke than it is to be average, because like at least from broke you get to enjoy those experiences when you have them. When you go to a steakhouse and it's just Olive Garden, you're like, dude, this is fancy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're actually enjoying it. When you're average, you're like, damn, I wish I could go to like a 5-star restaurant or a Michelin star
Oh,
restaurant, right?
yeah, because your view is further,
Yeah, but then you
but
get
it's still
that
out of
thing,
reach.
and then you're like, man, like there are no other Michelin star restaurants to go to. Like
Yeah.
now what, right? Like private experiences now. Okay, cool, I did that. Now what, right? Like it's just a repetitious thing where you're keeping up with the Joneses, and then you see that the Joneses live a certain way, and it's almost better to just like taste the Joneses lifestyle a little bit often, right?
Yeah, just go
Like,
visit.
yeah, just
That's actually a
visit.
perfect way to do it is just go visit sometimes.
You know,
Like I don't
and
need to live there.
yeah, a lot of people they end up buying the supercar and they're like, man, this shit actually isn't very comfortable. Like these seats are actually not that comfortable.
Their ass.
They're terrible. And especially for a big guy like you, like, oh, cramped and shit, you
Bro,
know?
my friends will and I feel so proud of them. Do you want to come sit in my McLaren? No.
No, like I'm happy that you're happy, but
I'm
I'm
six
happy
seven,
because of your
dog.
joy, right? Yeah.
No.
And then, it's the mansion thing too, man. Like I remember like I was sitting on my couch one night watching Kill Tony, and my daughter was in her room, my wife was in the bedroom with our boy, and he's only about 18 months old, so he's still
Yeah.
co-sleeping. And so I was just sitting there on my couch and I was like, man, if I was looking through Zillow, I was like, man, if I had this house that was $8 million in Cherrywood Creek, or I'm sorry, in Cherry, was it Cherry? I think it is Cherrywood Creek, right down the street. I was like, it would almost be scary to go to bed right now. Like I would have to like
Bro,
get off my couch and like there's like windows everywhere and shit. People might be watching in or
who's watching me?
something.
Yeah.
I got to go down the hall and then get up the stairs. Then you have like that creepy feeling behind you. You're like, ah, you know, it's just an interesting, it's like a meditation almost, where you put yourself in that building or that car or that lifestyle,
Mhm.
and you're like, would I even really enjoy this? Like, is this even something that I would want to do,
That's a hard question for a lot of people because almost always the answer is, well, I'd rather find out.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
And
So
it's hard to visualize that too sometimes if you've never experienced it firsthand, if you don't have rich friends or been into those houses,
yeah,
right?
you'd
Like,
have no clue.
no clue. You don't even know what the layout looks like unless you obsessed over it. And
Yeah.
so
I
it
remember
is kind of
the first
hard.
time I saw staff quarters in a house. I was like, what is that for? Is that like a pool house? Like, no, that's where the staff lives. I'm like, they
Yeah,
live here? What are you
they
talking
live
about? They're
here.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to have a full-time staff for this place. It's insane.
Yeah, one of the craziest things I ever heard was the staff has to turn to the wall when the people that own the home walk in.
Yeah, that was like an old like
It's like an old
Victorian
money
era
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Gilded Age.
Yeah.
They would have to turn to the wall. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
That's
Like
insanity, dude.
levels of wealth, man. And I think it still happens
Levels of
over,
assholeness though. That's the thing.
right. I think it
That's
still
not just
happens
the wealth.
overseas. I'm pretty sure it happens overseas still.
Probably. I could see
Yeah,
that. I
but
and
yeah,
like I
man.
get that it's seen as a term of respect and I'm looking from an American perspective. Uh but that would be fucking wild, dude. I like if I went to a friend's house and they did that, I'd be like, no, no, no. Everybody turn around. Please don't fucking do that when I'm in this room. That's insane.
Yeah, that's, you're talking about like the dinner where somebody's just talking wild, but then you go to somebody's house and that's like how they live. That's like a
Mhm.
cultural custom,
I just wouldn't be
right?
going back as a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be like a shock, an identity shock, a cultural shock for sure, where it's like
Sure.
this isn't how you're used to living, and these people like they're not used to anything else than that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Uh,
normal. Why are you acting so weird?
Right, right. And I do think about that often with some of these people that climb that mountain of success and look for those certain things. And then you want to be like friends with them. And then you realize that they do some weird shit like that. And I think that becomes an identity shock sometimes too. I don't think I
Well,
wrote
yeah,
that one
it's
down.
a lot of times it's like, what does that mean about me? If they're like this and they're where I want to be, does that mean I'm going to eventually be like this? I
Yep.
remember seeing that like when I first got into entrepreneurship, I was volunteering at a lot of entrepreneur events as like a quasi security customer service kind of thing. Um, and I just saw a lot of, again, like super successful people that I thought I wanted to be like, but I got to hear them in the green room after they got off stage and like, I fucking got those people. You see when I cried at the corner of the stage over there? Oh my God, our fucking conversion rate's gonna go up, blah, 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 blah. I got to hear who was cheating on their wives. I got to hear who was had drug addicts. I got to hear all the shit. And so thankfully early on, I got to see the people who were in the positions I wanted to be in and
Yep.
were absolutely fucking it up. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Just,
oh, okay, the success isn't going to do it for you. Because look at these people. On paper, they're successful. Oh my God, these conversations I'm hearing. Holy
yep.
shit, like spiritually devoid.
Hmm.
That was insane to listen to. And luckily, like it got in my head early. I was like, oh, I only want it if I get it the right way. I only want this thing that I say I desire if I get it the right way. And that matters so much more than actually getting there. If I do it the right way and I still fall a little bit short of that, totally fine. I'm completely happy with that.
So, based off the billionaires that you have met, do you think that that is like a lot of people profess that you have to be a certain type of person and scam others and step on the backs of others to get to the billionaire status? Do you believe that?
So look, these are the we're seeing social media billionaires. Grant Cardone's not a fucking billionaire. I'm sorry, anybody watching this. Grant Cardone's not a billionaire.
Right.
We're seeing social media billionaires who want to be popular and famous. We're not seeing quiet money. We're not
Hmm.
seeing old wealth. Those are the most regular fucking people, dude. Genuinely. These are the most regular ass people. I remember talking about one of my mentors to my wife when I think we were still dating at the time. This was probably 5 years ago. Um, and she had had this picture in his head of what he would look like. She had never seen a picture of him before. And he was coming over to our house. He owns a few companies here in Arizona and like does some creative direction stuff for their marketing as well. And he comes to our house for dinner and it's dressed like a normal dude. And my wife, like I saw her face, like I introduced them and he walks into our house and she looks at me like, I was like, what is that? She's like, he's I was like, fucking yeah, dude. Like, unless you're trying to be something else, most of these people outside of movies and TVs and assholes are just normal people.
Yeah.
Yeah, got more money than God. Normal ass fucking people almost exclusively. Like, I can think of a few eccentric people of that level that I've ever met, even. And again, like, they're weirdos and other people don't want to hang out with them. That's actually one of the things I look at when I'm looking at, like, let's say, Uber, upper echelon is who is also surrounded by friends of that same status.
Mm,
And the assholes almost never are. These people
yeah.
congregate together because they're the only ones who can afford to do certain things. And so a lot of them become friends and they do family vacations together and they hang out together. Their kids hang out together. They go to the same universities, all this stuff. The ones who are the lone wolf, uber successful, I know you're an asshole. You couldn't even convince me that you're not an asshole because these people want to stick together because nobody else understands this. There's a very few people that understand that level of like life where I can literally do whatever I want, but almost all of them regress, not even like regress in a bad way. They come back to, oh, I just want to be happy and like have a good life and have healthy children. And it's actually like, again, this part of the bell curve and this part of the bell curve, this is survival, but this is actually like contentment. And they can actually look a lot of the same. I just want my family to be happy and safe and fed and blah, 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 blah. And I just like the only thing these people have is I also want to give back.
What else is normal about those people that you have identified as like a normal marker, I guess, other than just like giving back? Like, what else do they do that's normal?
For being super successful,
Yeah.
optimizing for family dinners, like we come here on Christmas, we do this when we're together, like phones away from the table. It's again, it's almost all community and us because we have time for the rest of everything else. That's also part of it. It's like we don't have to be answering messages during dinner time because I don't need this client. I don't have to do this thing. When you don't have to do
Mhm.
anything, you have the freedom to do what you're supposed to do. And I think that's what we should actually be taking from the uber successful people is like when people don't need money, what do?
Yep.
And they do normal shit that actually matters, that fills up their soul. And that's what you should be doing as well when you have the amount of money you said you would slow down at. And I think
Mm.
that's a huge common pattern that I see in friends and in clients. They've all had this number that said, when I hit this, when this is in my bank account, or when I hit this revenue goal, then I'm allowed to insert thing here. I'm allowed to spend time with my kids, pay attention to my wife, find a new hobby, like any of the things that they've been talking about doing, it's only attached to once I hit this. What happens? They hit that number.
Yep.
But fuck, I got a lot of work to do. But fuck, I got this thing to do now. You're always going to be able to distract yourself. They will always be available for the rest of your life.
That or sustainability, right? Like you've hit it and now you're like, damn, now I got to sustain it. Like
Yeah.
I can't go back down now. I got to go back up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's again going kind of making full circle back down to what we started the conversation with is community is one of those bigger characteristic builders for a lot of people where it's like, you may have some bridges that need to be mended. You may have some conversations that need to be had that haven't. A lot of people avoid those conversations and then create this identity of resentment and have these feelings towards somebody that they haven't even, the person hasn't even thought about you in 10 years. Like you mentioned, like they have a resentment from somebody in high school and they're
Yeah.
45 years old. It's like, bro, you don't have haters. You have kids that need you. You got
Yes.
people in the living room right now that need you.
Again, you
And
wouldn't think about what people think of you if you knew how seldom they did.
exactly. Yeah. And
Nobody's paying attention. I
they're
promise.
so wrapped up in themselves, man.
Yeah.
It's like they're so consumed with like me trying to climb the mountain, me trying to pay my bills, me trying to be a parent to even think about unless you are that pinnacle of success and they look at it as like a point of envy, that's different. But like if you're on the same level and you guys are climbing the same mountain, they're not thinking about you, bro. Like
No.
if anything, they want to help you. And that's kind of again what this podcast is about. Like I want to bring people not necessarily down the mountain, but like back to community and like get people around each other and like let them know that that is like the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the community that you surround yourself with. And I'm not saying you need to go back to your toxic family members or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but like really delineate what is toxic. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned with like the 60-year-old dudes that you hang out with, they make bad jokes, right? But they don't do it around you. Why? Set that same precedent and tone with your family members, with your community, with the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And eventually you're going to restore that community amongst each other. And like you see a riff happening, you can step in and be like, hey guys, like you don't need to be riffing like this. Like, come on, like what's the issue right now?
Yeah.
And you can separate those kind of like
A
weird
lot of times, dude,
moments.
it's subtle. I just did this last night with my mom. We were out front, and she said something about like Kyrie's hoe phase before I met my wife, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Well, you were flying around to different girls, and you were doing blah blah blah." I was like, "Name them." She's like, "Well, this one," and she like has a nickname for her. And I was like, "Yep. Who else?" That was it. Yep. I saw one woman between my ex for a while and when I met my wife. And as soon as I met my wife, I cut this one off immediately. So what are you talking about, my hoe phase?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I realized is the repercussion there is if I had this right before I met my wife and I didn't tell her about it, oh, what else? What other secrets am I keeping? How am I being dishonest? Blah blah blah. So I have to, in the polite way possible, the politest way possible, check it and go, okay, what are you talking about? Name it. Who else
Yeah.
did I talk about? Did I introduce you to? Even if I was doing it, I definitely wasn't telling you, my mother, but I wasn't. And so it was just like a very quick, oh, okay. I know that you're not doing it on purpose. And she wasn't doing it maliciously. It was just like a
Right.
funny thing. And she probably felt bad about it right after she said it. But again, if you don't say and clarify, what are you talking about here? It makes the person go back and either again double down on being an asshole or apologize or ask questions and go, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I was wrong. But I think
Yeah.
those are valuable. I don't have to yell and cuss. I don't have to be angry and why the fuck would you talk about this in front of my wife and blah 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 blah. I just go,
Yeah.
it's because I know it's not true. I can go, tell me more about that. And you should do that when you suspect anybody is possibly being malicious or not. Just have them clarify, and you'll quickly realize whether somebody's being an asshole or is just like not socially aware enough to know like how their question came off or how the joke came off when we're talking about like the older guys. Like it, it I'll think about like racially, um, topics will come up, conversations will come up. And most of the time it's just me adding context that actually gets us
Right.
through the conversation. I go, you're not mean, you're ignorant. And that's okay too, as long as you're willing to just hear what I have to say. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I have to say from this perspective. And normally we come to a decent conclusion, which again, the internet's not great for that. But in person, that's what you're allowed to do. You're allowed to
Yeah.
go, oh, I didn't see it that way. That totally makes sense now.
And people respect it, man. Like, especially for like family members. If you happen to take a leadership position and you're like, hey guys, like, let's just like not talk like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't do anything for anybody at the table. It doesn't really help make anybody feel good. And I just feel like we should probably change the topic altogether. Like that's okay to do that sometimes if you're just feeling uncomfortable. And people they take it a little too extreme sometimes and get emotional
Oh,
with it. But yeah, again, coming back to community and the character that you are and just being able to establish that precedent, a lot of people unfortunately are just not emotionally very intelligent. Like you said, socially
sure.
they're just not there. Emotionally they're just not there, and sometimes people just let words fly. you know
Yeah.
Sometimes people just put the foot in the mouth and they actually are emotionally and socially intelligent and they just said some stuff. you
Mm-hmm.
know they're just, like you said, trying to be funny, and I feel like my dad does that very often, and it's
Yeah. But
just,
that's why you give them an opportunity. Like,
yeah.
clarify. And you can either double down, you can be like, maybe that was a little over the top. Totally fine.
Right.
That's all. That's
it,
one of the things I think it's a skill that I've developed is I'm unoffendable. You can't offend me. I will
yep.
never get angry at you for anything you say. I'll set a
Yeah.
tone. I'll say this is acceptable or unacceptable, but I'm not angry. I'm not pissed off. You didn't do anything to me by saying that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a
I
hard
mean,
place to get to.
and that's the thing. Even if you did have a hoe phase, if I had a hoe phase and my dad says something to me, I'd be like, hey, dad, just not appropriate right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, mm-mm.
Yeah. It would have been weird. It would have been weird
Yeah,
even if it was true, is the problem.
exactly. And being able to correct that is the overall point of what I think we're trying to make, obviously, is just
Absolutely.
like set the precedent. Like, hey, man, like, I know I used to be young and naive and we used to joke like that. We can't anymore.
I
Like,
think that's the hard thing with
we've grown
family.
up now.
Yeah. When you talk about becoming successful, the last people typically to come on board is your family because they still see
Yep.
you as a little kid,
Yep.
right? I'm going through
Still
this with
making those jokes.
one of the most insane families in the country right now. I'm working with one of their family members, and I hear about the family dynamic, and I hear how hard it is to get a word in edgewise. And if you're married into the family versus born into the family, you don't get to say shit. You could have been
Wow.
married in 40 years ago to this family. You have no fucking say. You married into our
Wow.
last name. You do not have our last name. And I was like,
It's like some Usher type shit, huh?
oh shit, way bigger than Usher. Oh my God. And it was insane to think about. And what we're actually working on right now is changing the family dynamic and how they address him, because they had done
Wow.
something. I posted about this a few weeks ago. They had done something that he found distasteful that they've always done that was good for their community, and they stopped doing it. And he was pissed off. And I said, well, how would you normally respond? Anger, pissy, again, definitely like trust fund rich kid, but trying
Sure.
to figure himself out. And so he still has those tendencies of, if I'm loud and angry and boisterous, everybody's going to listen to me.
Hmm.
I said, again, they'll move out of your way, but they won't listen to you.
Right.
Here's how you approach it. And we talked through like how to have the conversation. I said, they're not going to do what you want. This is what you have to understand. You're not going to change anything today. But what you're going to do is start setting a tone for how you're going to be interacted with from here on out. And you're going to learn something about yourself. And so he goes into the conversation. It goes disastrously, but he maintains his own composure. He calls me the next day and is like, dude, one, you saved me probably 15 grand, because the last time this happened, he lost his shit,
Just
went
broke a
out
bunch
of
of
the back of
stuff.
the building and started breaking shit. He shoved his uncle into like a bookshelf. He did some wild shit. He's like 22,
Jeez.
he's 23, 24 years old. Um, and like how he handled it, I said, what'd you learn? And he was like, literally nothing about my family. I said, it wasn't for your family, it was for you. What'd you learn about yourself? And he goes, I don't have to be that way. I've always been the hot. I've always been angry, insert name, that everybody knows is like just the immature kid and that they have to go manage. And I think there's a first time I felt like an adult in front of my family. And I said, okay,
Mm.
can you expect them to accept it the first time they see it? He's like, no, but I've been trying to get them to accept it. And then that's what makes me go crazy. And I go, okay, so now you've rid yourself of the need to be seen as this because you know you are. Now you run into every single interaction from here on out. You're now, insert name, the adult. And you have to maintain that and carry that, because that's easy to lose. The one next freak out you have loses probably 6 months of effort of being consistent with that.
Yep,
But
there he is
again,
again.
you learned you're allowed to do this now. You're allowed to be a grown up and be
Right.
seen as a grown up, mostly by yourself, but then everybody else ends up following along. And maybe it's not even for this generation that's currently running the company that you guys are doing right now. Maybe it's when the people in your generation, because you're the oldest in your generation, replace their parents. And now you have been the adult and leader in the room for the last 15 years, for the last 10 years, whenever. These people are about to retire in the next 5, 10 years. You're the oldest of your generation, but the youngest of the adults in the room. You're kind of the next person up, and you don't see yourself that way. And if you don't start choosing to see yourself that way, it'll probably be somebody else.
Yeah, 100%. And you're not gonna like that either.
And you're gonna fucking hate it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna
But
like that.
if you keep going this way, they will have no choice but to hand it to somebody else.
Yeah, how do you deal with that when people are worried about like excommunication or something like we were talking about within that tribe, especially with like wealthy families like that? Like they'll kick you out, you know.
They can't kick you out.
They
You were born
can't?
in no, you were born in the last name. You can't get kicked out. Look at the royal family in England. What did
What
he get
about
kicked
like
out of? He went to
just
a
not
fucking
invited anymore?
again, same thing. The royal family in England just did this with a pedophile son.
Hmm.
he
I mean,
he
he
has to
he
live in a 12,000
technically
square foot house now. Oh
he
no.
technically was excommunicated, sort of.
But that's the thing. Is he not going to family dinners?
Right.
Apparently there was something that just came out that he like made some crude jokes at a family dinner like recently about the allegations that were against him. And like family members were like, what the fuck are we doing here? They're not allowed to kick you out. That's like one of the benefits of this family and families like this is you're not allowed to actually fail. Like you'd have to go to prison or be a fucked up junkie that nobody can find for you to actually fail in families like this. They will do the bare minimum, which is still a fucking lot more than anybody else gets forever. They all have trust funds set up. They all have like you're going to have your bare minimum needs met no matter what's going to happen, and
Yeah,
you're
you're not going
invited
back
to
to
family.
zero.
Yeah, and you're invited to family stuff because of your last name. You're still going to these events. You're still going to the national events that we host.
Why? Just like legal reasons?
Um, I'd never really considered that. No, they're just so big on this is our family and this is what we do.
Hmm.
It's the name.
Damn.
Because if you like, let's say you go rogue and start going on podcasts talking about this family, what does that do to stock prices? What does that do to anything else?
Yeah, good point.
So maybe that's
But
part of it. Is like it's
what
brand
about what about
management.
if you're not that high up? What about like you're just like, 50, $100 million? You're not like, yeah, I mean, I guess it still has some influence, but I mean, like, not necessarily wealthy families, but rich families.
Sure, sure.
Like you're worried about excommunication. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not working with the royal family, but like I'm worth 10 million, $15 million. Okay. My
Mhm.
dad has 15 million bucks and he's trying to excommunicate me. I'm worried about it. I get angry. I don't know how to set like the tone of me being an adult. He's mad at me. I don't do anything. I just live off of him.
Yeah. One is learn to be a bigger grown up than your dad because that's the only type of dad that's actually doing that to his kids. So you have to learn to be
Mm,
more mature than your dad. And then before you address it, learn to be more mature than him and have the empathy required for him not to know that. Right. Because if you
wow.
come in and just like over calm your dad, why are you so angry, dad? One of us is getting worked up here. Like that's what typically people do
Yeah,
when
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I can stay calmer than you. They start
Uh-huh.
using it as like an NLP technique. But then have the empathy for this person to not make them aware of how mature you are, how much more mature you are than them. And they'll eventually realize it. After they blow up the conversation or after the next thing, they'll go, "What the fuck was he so chill?" Because when you normally react like
Right.
a crazy person and all of a sudden you don't, even in the conversation, if he ends up like blowing up and fuck you, I'm taking your car keys and what, like whatever that is, he'll be thinking about it afterwards and be like, God, yeah, I need maybe need to chill out a little bit. Maybe I was a little too rough. Or like your mom will come in and be like, babe, what
And she's like,
world are we
mm.
doing? Yeah, like what is this? I think again, when you are immovable from this is who I am, so I'm not acting outside of that, you everybody else really needs to adjust,
Yeah,
especially if you're not throwing anything at them for not adjusting. I think that's the danger people get into is as soon as I change, I need you to recognize it and I need you to give me all the credit as if I've been this the entire time. That's not how it works.
that's the stamp right there, baby.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Yeah, dude, I think that brings us full circle on this podcast. The man inside with Kyree Oliver, man. A couple takeaways for me when it comes to character and the community that, I try to profess people to get around is like, yeah, man, you touched on it. Like, define the person that you want to be, right? You look down the road and you see two paths and you're like, I could go this way, I could go that way.
Yeah,
I can see both outcomes. I know exactly how this is going to unfold. And if I take the higher ground, it will work out over time. And I have to kind of create that character myself, even though it's hard. It will come over time. And then
yeah,
people will respect that character I've built. And that is the identity that people need to identify with is like, who is that person?
yeah. I would say, in a sentence, have the patience in your personal life that you were willing to have with your business.
Mm,
You needed your business to work out right away? No. You were willing to wait and work and not matter and not care if anybody else saw the vision you saw. Do that in your personal life.
yeah, I love that.
Almost
Yeah.
nobody does it.
The other thing too is like you mentioned, the family doesn't excommunicate you just because they hold that value so deeply, like I even told you actually, I think maybe about 4 months ago or so, like we were going through like a list of like the constitutional
Mm-hmm.
values as a family, like that your family constitution, nobody writes that. Nobody
Yeah,
like establishes the values and principles and rules and ethics or guidelines even on like how to be a person, let alone
yeah,
like have success or like be a parent or be a husband or wife or whatever. And I think there's a lot of value in that and being able to establish just those principles.
yeah. Again, we think we're going to get it by osmosis. I still have
Hmm.
the link pulled up for this. I was looking at like a family crest creation thing. Uh,
Nice.
I'm sure you can do some cool shit with AI too, but this is like an older company that like will create a family crest for you. Like you basically
Yep.
give them a document of like this is who we are. Here's our like basically our family constitution. Here's all the elements of us, and they create you like a customized family crest that you can hang up on the wall. I think
That's
that would
pretty
be really
cool.
cool. Like especially with young kids, like to teach them from the beginning. This is who we are as Olivers. This is who we are as Kinsers.
Yeah. Yeah. And people they identify better with identity than not having an identity at all. So like even if it's not perfect, like try to figure something out, even if it comes down to four
Constitutions
basic
are
principles.
constitutions are amendable.
Hmm.
As
Great
I
point.
grow and learn as a person, we can update this bitch.
Heck yeah, man. And you have to. And I think it has to be a living document. It has to be
Mm-hmm.
something that has family input too. If you have your family member read it and it's somebody that you want to bring into that community and they take a look at it and they're like, hey man, I suggest you make some changes here and there, like
Mm-hmm.
have that conversation. I think that's super valuable, being
Yeah,
able to grow as a
minimum.
person. You don't need to have it as a monarchy.
No, no,
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you having this conversation with me today, man. I look forward to having these podcasts with a lot of you guys and hopefully circling back and having another one with you. And
absolutely.
I
That'd be
hope you have
cool.
a great new year, my friend.
Thank you, brother, man. Happy New
Right
Year.
on. Where can everybody find you? If you need some training or coaching by Mr. Kyrie, where can they find you?
Yeah. Instagram's probably the easiest, just at Kyree, Kyree. It was one of my good purchases a few years ago by my name.
Nice.
And I have Kyree.com that I locked down probably like 7 years ago. Um, yeah, Instagram's probably the easiest, Facebook Messenger. I have an ebook that I think is helpful for people. It's called Pillars of Power. It's like 6 areas of your life that if you are trying to just get a hold of something, there's probably something shaken in one of these 6 pillars. And how do I course correct in this specific area, but then learn about all the others? And so I think I'll have to get the link to that we can pop in there. I can
Yeah, heck
get it
yeah.
from my GHL doc. And then Kyree.com/course is my course. Um, it's called The Man Inside. It's building that foundational identity. So how's it been built up to this point? It was typically built based on what people showed you throughout your life. Typically your primary masculine figure, which for most people is their fathers, but grandfathers, uncles, whatever. That's a big part of who I am that I didn't decide. And so once I recognize how much of this I didn't choose, my anger issues, my whatever else, um, now that I can choose, what do I choose? And it's helping people kind of build that. It's 30 lessons, 30 days to start building who do I actually decide I want to be for the next 20 years.
That's awesome, man.
So those are the easiest ways. I'm actually
Cool.
building like an archetype quiz too.
Yeah, you mentioned you were putting
Recommend that for
together like
people
an
like that.
AI of yourself.
Yeah, I'm building a few of them actually. I actually my goal today is to finish up my one for the first 90 days of 2026. I'm building like a custom GPT to help people plan out their first 90 days of 2026 life and personal goals. But I'm building out a conversational Kyree AI that I'll probably do for like, 47.97 bucks a month that people can come interact with. Um, and then I'm building a third one that I'm not talking about publicly yet.
Cool, man. Such a
Yeah,
wild future, huh?
it's insane.
Yeah. It is. It's a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
cool, man. Well, guys, thanks for coming to the Basecamp podcast again. Elevate Elite. My name's Donovan and Mr. Kyree. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me on again, Ben.
Right on. Talk to you soon.